Obviously, thank you for your time. Thank you to USA Diving for letting me come down here and try to meet you all where you are already and see if there's a way we can help you. I've had a number of conversations with people already, and you know, we don't want to sound the alarms, but there's definitely some things coming down, trickle-down effects from the NCA all the way down that can make things a little more challenging for us in the next few years. So anything we can do to try to help you guys stay in front of stuff a little bit, and keep the sport going is better for us. So just a little bit about me. I am the owner of Springboard Creative and Flip Athletic, married, 2 kids, let you know that. I moved around a whole bunch. I'm currently poorly training for a half Ironman. That might have been a bad idea. And I have ADHD, and I think that's important to share because I want to destigmatize it, and it certainly has changed my life, and getting treatment has changed it. So, and I feel like there's a lot of people who actually are in that boat and didn't realize it. So, anyways, that's just a little bit about me. Background was originally in journalism, master's in coaching education, coach for over 20 years at every level, all the way up, and then work in journalism, design, communications, branding, public education. So in a way, my whole life has sort of culminated in this, having all of these experiences come together to position me to be able to help here. So like a good journalist, we don't want to bury the lead, so we are literally going to start with what matters most. There's not a ton of you in here, so you can just raise your hands. I'm not going to make you stand up, but we want to talk about what you do for a living, okay? And so if you met somebody on the street or at a party or whatever, and you introduced yourself, we want to know how you identify. So throw your hand up if when you introduce yourself, you tell people you're a diving coach. Okay. All right. What if you say, no, I'm a developer of young people. That's what I do. Don't cheat and go back. How many of you, the first way you introduce yourself is as a business owner? Okay. So we want to change a little bit of your identity. You are a business owner first and foremost. You develop young people. You happen to do that by coaching diving. If you coached badminton, the concept would still be the same. You're still doing it as a business and helping young people. Your skill set just happens to be in diving. Okay? So we want to be able to start working on shifting our perspective. When we do that, it enables us to do a couple things. One, better understand who our competition is. When we only identify as a diving coach, we view our competition as other diving programs and diving coaches. And that's not solely who we are. Okay? Second thing is it allows us to make necessary changes with, I say less guilt, not no guilt, because a lot of us are in this not for the money, and we go, oh, I don't want to raise rates on them, it's tough for families, and we start to put everybody else's needs ahead of our own, and then all of a sudden we're barely functioning as a program trying to keep ourselves afloat. So being able to shift perspective will allow you to start to make some of those changes. It's going to let you create new opportunities for growth and revenue because you're going to view things differently. Instead of viewing it solely as a diving coach, you're going to start to view things as a business owner, and that's going to change that perspective on how you do stuff. And ultimately, it's going to shift your outcomes, whether that's numbers, revenue, time off, whatever it is. So that is the most important thing that, honestly, that you can take away from this whole thing is like, okay, what is it that I do first and foremost, and then how can I apply that? So we are talking about branding and business building, so we're going to go through just a few quick basics here on what is a brand, and simply, it's your reputation. Everybody here has a personal brand, whether you realize it or not. You may not have curated it, but your reputation is the nice guy, or the loud guy, or the gym rat, or whatever. All these different things that make you who you are to everybody else. That's part of you and your reputation. It's the same for your entity, your program, your business, whatever it is. So a brand is not a logo. It's not the colors. It's not just what your name is. It is the personality of you. Maybe you're a solopreneur. You're the only person running your club, or you're a bigger program in general. It's sort of like, that girl's really pretty, but she's dumb in a box of rocks. Well, I'm not just going to go after her because she was pretty. After I talk to her, I'm like, yeah, I don't want any part of it. It's the same kind of thing. If you look flashy, but then they get to you and you're like, wow, these guys are ridiculous, they're out. Okay? It's not what you sell or do. Like we mentioned earlier about being a diving coach. It's why and how you do it. Why are you a coach? Why do you coach diving? How do you coach it? How do you conduct yourself? And it's not what you say it is. You can't say, oh, my brand is this, I'm this guy. It's what everybody else says. You don't really have a say. You can make efforts to shape that. You can represent yourself in a certain way, but ultimately it's going to come down to everybody else's perception of you. Okay? So, Marty Neumeyer is kind of like this guru of branding. He hits it right on the head. It's somebody else's gut feeling about you, your product, whatever it is. Okay? So then, what is branding? Well, it's building a brand. But building the brand is sort of like building your reputation. It's all the things you did in your life to make you who you are. It's the same concept. So identifying who you are and what you stand for as a business, as a program, as an individual. What makes you different and relevant that is going to bring someone to the table and have interest in you? And communicating your message and your story. And they're two different things, but they're both very important. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit on why. So it's just this, in general, branding is this process of connecting these things. Okay. So when we get started on this, we want to know, first of all, where are we going? Because a dream without a plan is just a dream. You don't lay it out there, it doesn't mean anything. So if you were taking notes or whatever, and if you scan, you can get this PDF afterwards and work on this stuff at home. But the first thing I would want you to do is identify your situation. So financials, I know a lot of times business owners don't want to talk about it. Even my clients are really hesitant at first. You have to know where you stand to know where you want to go. And once you start to really look at that stuff, you might find that changing your prices from $400 a month to $395 a month is enough to shape and shift the psychology of people who would come join your team to go, oh, it's $395. They see that first number. There's a whole psychological theory on this, that they see that 3 and it makes it different, even though it's only $5. That's why when you go to the store, everything's $19.95, because it's not 20, it's 5 cents, but it does something to you psychologically. Look at your numbers. Where are you at? Look at the capacity that your program has to grow. Maybe you're limited by space or by other coaches or time of day, right? It gets dark really early where I am, or I'm outdoors and I can't do much in the winter or whatever. Your time commitment, sometimes people are doing this as a second job or whatever, and ultimately your happiness. You could grow your program to be 500 kids, but if you're miserable, why? Right? So you'll want to start identifying those things to be able to figure out where you want to go. Your capacity is not going to change much, so after you identify those, then you want to go back and look at them, and we're going to sub performance or results in there. And that's going to be more of, do I want my program to be a national level team, or focused on just having a lot of numbers locally, or developing great high school divers, whatever that is. Okay? So when you go through those things, then kind of put where you are, move over to the next column, and start making some ideas of where you want to go and see where those line up and where they don't. Okay. Key questions you can ask yourself as you're going through this process is, what is the main problem that you solve? And we put problem in quotes because it's not really a problem. But what you're solving isn't really diving instruction. Sometimes it is, but likely it's not. And you'll see why as we go through this. So figure out what it is that you're helping to solve for, and then sum it up in 3 key words, if you can. Sometimes that's hard to distill it down, but do that. If you can't get it down to keywords, get it down to thoughts. Who are your target audiences? And be as specific as you possibly can. Because your target audience is more than one thing. You're not just targeting 13 and under kids to join your program. You're targeting their parents too. So those are 2 very, very different psychographic groups that you have to target and know how to communicate with. Maybe you're a nonprofit as well and you're looking for business partners. So now you've got 3 groups that you need to build target audiences for and try to figure out, okay, what are they going to do for me? How am I going to do this? And what do you want your customers to say about you? So if I walk away from Carolina Diving Academy, what am I going to say about Aaron in that program? What does he want me to say? And then is he doing the things to make sure that that's what the people say? I'm just picking at you, right? So, next thing is understanding the competition. This piggybacks on what we just talked about. So, I want you to identify your 3 top competitors. They are almost certainly not diving programs. Unless you are in a couple select metropolitan areas where everything's really close and loaded, Southern California is a great example, your competitors are not other diving programs. You're competing for time and dollars. Remember, you are a business. Most of you are parents in here. So think about, you want to put your kids in some kind of activity, whether it's to consume their time, consume their interest, something. So you are competing with the karate dojo and the swim team and the after-school musical practice. All of those things are competing for time and dollars and effort. You are part of that. So you need to understand your business first and what are you doing to compete for that same group of people. It's not just kids who want to dive. It's, I got to do something with my kid for 4 hours a day during the summer, and there's a local dive camp, like it's hot, it's a pool, cool, we'll go do that and see. And then maybe it turns into something. Okay. Yeah. Parents want to do something. So why should they pick you and why should they pick diving? If you're having that conversation, what is your sell to somebody? Is it, we make champions? Or is it, your kid's going to go to bed like really early because they're going to be just like gassed? Maybe that's the message to a parent of a 7-year-old. If you came and told me that right now, I would be like, sold, where do I write the check? Okay. So you have your competition on one hand, and then you have your landscape, and this is a little broader, but we want to know what those activities that we just talked about in your area look like. Is it high level? Is it elite training everywhere? Or is it recreational, low commitment, amateur coaching? This is your YMCA soccer league with a mom or a dad as the coach of 6-year-olds running around. Maybe that's okay, but if your market is loaded with that, maybe there's space for something different. Or if everything is super elite and cutthroat, maybe there's space for, hey, we're just going to come in and we're going to do this thing. And maybe that's a spot where you can start to build some numbers. Similarly, what are the demographics like? Is it educated, affluent? Do you have all these resources? Or are you maybe in a lower socioeconomic area? Maybe there's opportunities, but can't get the kids from school to an after-school activity if they don't take the bus. So maybe you invest as a club in some kind of transportation to get those 10 kids from the middle school to your pool, and then you add in a volunteer college student tutor that comes in and helps them with their homework. And now they're at your pool from 3:30 to 7. They get their homework done, and they've trained. And mom and dad didn't have to worry about getting them from there, and they can come pick them up in the evening. So you can use that to kind of help position your program. Better isn't better, different is better. Now I'm going to say this again. Better isn't better, different is better. You want to be memorable. You want to stand out. Sometimes being different means being better. Your difference might be that you are the elite cream of the crop program. But your difference might be that you're the most affordable. It might be that you have the most hours available to train. It might be that you have after-school tutors or any number of different things. Things that can help you stand out are going to make the difference. So, when you're positioning this and we look at your market, we look at what does it need and what can it support. So if you go back and say, oh man, everything's loaded with high-level programs, well, maybe you have an opportunity to make a third or two-thirds of your program more recreational. Have some fun coaching that. Bring in a lot of dollars with kids who aren't super high-level commitment and whose parents might not be that intense, and then have your elite group on top of it. Or maybe it's just the opposite. If everything's low-key, maybe you need something a little bit more. And then go back and look at the things that you talked about with your goals and who you are and where you want to be, and try to see, am I in the right spot to take advantage of that? Am I already there to collect money on this or not? And do I need to alter something? Maybe my numbers are low because my prices are too high. Maybe I'm jam-packed because my prices are too low. Maybe I can actually raise my rates 10% and keep 99% of my kids and have a better margin. Are you busting at the seams because everybody wants to dive or because it's an affordable option? Okay, well, if it's burning you and you have no energy, then maybe you can adjust that. Okay. Next thing is going to be about telling your story. So as you've gotten through these pieces, now you've got to figure out where to go with that. So you want to have this story because that's where everything comes from. Connection is the #1 factor of building loyalty. And relatability is the easiest way to create connection. So, me being a great example right here, I have some credibility with you guys because I have some relatability. You go, oh, that guy was a coach. He knows my situation. He knows, what I've been doing, where my struggles are, all that stuff. Versus if I was just a guy who came in and said, oh, USA Diving hired me, I'm from Midland, and I help brands out. And you go, okay, well, what does this guy know about what I do? Okay? So the same thing is you tell your story to the public, they go, I went to the same college as that guy, or, oh, that guy's got 3 kids like me, or we go to the same church, whatever it is, there's going to be ways to connect, and that's going to start getting them in the door and building that first step. And again, remember that your story is different from your job. So if you go back to the very beginning, what's part of my story? That I have ADHD, that I moved around a lot. So maybe that's a conversation starter, and somebody goes, oh, I was a military brat, and, oh yeah, I moved around, and all of a sudden there's this comfort level. The guards come down, and you can start to bridge that gap and make progress. So I just came up with a super generic example here of how a story could play out. So you're a coach, you struggled with your mental health as a kid, didn't get much help, you weren't a good athlete, but you found diving and you liked it because you felt like you were cared about today. You say, that coach saved my life. I was in a bad spot. I spent every day after school there. It's what kept me going. Okay. Now I work at a really crappy job selling widgets and I'm unhappy. I want to go do something more fulfilling. So you start coaching. It's your happy place. You like it. You're having fun. You're good at it, but you're not good at the diving part necessarily because you weren't dive advanced. You don't know how to coach or full out, but you know how to talk to a kid and make him feel safe and get him to learn some things. So now you're geeking out. You're trying to learn everything you can because now you're really into this. You're invested. You're having fun. Things are going well. You've got a small little group you're helping out with, and they start going, hey, I really like working with Jim. He's awesome. He's great with my kids. He has like kind of a similar story to what I did, and so I don't want that for my kid, and I feel like he's got a great thing, or I'm a single mom, and he's a great role model for my kid. So they start sharing, and other people start coming. They become advocates for your program. Now you're rocking and rolling. Your program's going, you say, I'm done with this. I'm quitting to go coach. But I'm not that great of a coach. I'm not going to build championship level divers. I'm building championship level people. These kids come in here every day, and this is my mission, is to help them. And this becomes your niche. You're not going to be the elite diving program in town or in the area. You're going to be this maybe recreational program, but you've found your group of people that you don't have to sell because they're buying. They're asking you if they can have this stuff. You don't have to ask them to buy. Okay? So now you've got this group of competent divers, and they're just having fun, and they're in the program all the time. They never make a nationals, but they love the heck out of what they do, like being around their team. Maybe they do something dumb like become a coach too. Okay? That's a story that as a coach, you communicate out to the public in doses, and maybe it's private conversations, maybe it's social media. There's a number of ways that you can communicate that, but that helps to bring people in, because maybe somewhere in those 12 bullet points, you guys go, that one resonates with me, or that was my cousin, or that's the situation I was in, or I've got some kids like that in my program. Okay. So you can take all that, and I'm just going to give you a couple here tips on pushing that out for digital stuff. Manage, I call it micromedia because it's not really social media anymore. I did a video on this a while back, but TikTok, we used to think was this kid's dance app. In the last probably about 18 months now, the fastest growing demographic is 30 to 50 on TikTok. And it's launching 6, 7, 8-figure businesses almost daily at this point. And it's not just from influencers. It's literally like, here's me making an epoxy table, and now I have 1 million followers, and I'm 9 months out on orders, right? So, being on there, telling your story, being authentic, people are going to see through it if you look fake. If everything looks scripted and not like it's really representing you, they're going to see through it and they're going to go right past you. So you don't want to over-curate. You don't only want to put all the super best things up there. You want to be authentic. And this is what life is really like in our program. And your story, again, is more important than your product, so you want to tell that. And your story is not just you individually, but you as a program, right? Maybe you created this program to fill a need in your community, and whatever it is. There's a lot of ways to tell that, and it's much more important than I have a lot of kids who do full out. What you have is a lot of kids who are achieving goals that maybe they didn't think they could, and they're gaining self-confidence, and now their grades are up at school. That's part of your story that you tell. Bob's dive team had 17 kids make the honor roll. Last year, only 4 of those kids were on it. They're learning discipline and self-confidence and these other skills here, and we're making a difference. That's part of your story. Balance that content between representation and what we call promotion or advertising. Not just, hey, we're having a diving day, or come join us, or this is what we do, but here's a kid learning to dive. They're really excited because they were in a back dive top. Look at them like going nuts. It's been weeks and they have finally got over their fear. And so showing that balance of every day there along with, hey, these are reasons you might want to come check us out is really important. You don't want to be in just sell mode. Diversify your platforms. We just talked about TikTok. There's a lot of stuff out of there, and some of these are going to die in a year or 3 years. Anybody have a MySpace account? They know that. And TikTok wasn't even on the planet really a couple, 3 years ago. The pandemic made TikTok because everybody was bored. And so it went from a kids' dance app to this mega thing now. Also, you've got to be able to have some redundancy. Earlier, I guess it was last fall, I think, there was a major outage and Facebook and Instagram went completely down for, 20 hours or something like that. People were freaking out. And Twitter was like, hey, we're over here. Look at us, we're still up and running. So people who only communicated through Facebook or Instagram weren't getting their message out. Social media managers were losing their mind because they're like, I don't have anything here. So being able to be in other platforms is important to make sure you're reaching those groups. And then ultimately you're going to have to communicate differently, right? Instagram is very visual, particularly in photos, but some more video. TikTok's all video based. Twitter's mainly just short words or whatever. Being on LinkedIn is important because somebody's going to get a in your area reference, or you might like, and they have nothing to do with diving, but they happen to have an 8-year-old kid who's got too much energy. And they go, oh, here's the thing I never knew. Oh, and they look down and they go, I went to the same college. 15 years apart, but okay, cool. And all of a sudden, you're making connections and you're bringing people in. And the last thing is engage. And I know, for a lot of people who are doing everything themselves, you're busy, but as you put stuff out there, you really want to try to engage with those followers. They need to be heard to feel like they are a part of your brand, building that advocacy. So if you can go in and like their comment, click that heart. Comment back, hey, thanks for the feedback. Awesome seeing you at the meet. Those things go a long way for a kid joining your program, leaving something else to come to you, a parent going, we just got into dining because it was something to do, and like, now I like it. Like, it's kind of cool. I'm learning about it. We're going to meets. Like, he brought 3 of his friends from school, and now they joined the team. Right? All these things can help to build your numbers, but you sort of have to be engaged in doing all of these. So, everything's great. I don't need that. It's just as parents, right? I don't know that everybody's in a perfect business situation. I think there's probably a few clubs that are doing great, but you know, sometimes this is what sucks the most time out of us. So we're going to go through a little bit of parent personalities here that will hopefully help you communicate with them better, and that is also important because it can build advocacy from them when they feel heard and represented, and then the more those people become your advocates, the less you have to do to go build your club. They're going to build it for you. You don't have time to go talk to 20 kids at an elementary school, but mom talks to 10 parents while she's in the pickup line and tells them what a great program you have and all the things that her kids are doing and why it's so awesome. So making sure that they're happy properly is going to go a long way. So just a little background on this. Carl Jung was a big-time psychologist. He created these 12 characters, basically, and each of them kind of has, you would almost stereotype them, but there's a lot of psychology behind it in building out these personality types. And then each of these kind of fits into a family where there's some more kind of micro archetypes in there. Sometimes they're interchanged. It just depends on who's published that book that you're looking at. But in general, it's those 12, and then there's, again, some kind of subgroups. But they're just basic human things: motivations, values, personalities. Youth sports parents typically are 4 of these, one of these 4. And the interesting thing is that it's not that all the time. It's sort of in their role as a youth parent, youth sports parent. So it's the caregiver, the neighbor, you'll see that called the everyman in a lot of places, the ruler, and the patriarch. And those 2 are basically from the same family, but there's enough difference in there that we classify them as 2 different things. So, and again, maybe part of their overall, or may not be. So the first one is the caregiver. This is your teen mom. So right now, I'm sure you're all going, that's Sally, that's whoever, right? You're starting to identify people on your own of like, I know who my teen mom is. Okay. Very selfless. They're always trying to look out for everybody else. They're always prepared. They've got a Band-Aid in their purse and a granola bar, and they're ready to give somebody a ride home if they need to. Okay. They're going to be the first one there to do everything, help out, and they're also a little crazy. They're a little bit needy for all the information because they feel like, I got to do all this stuff. Coach, I need this right now. Tell me right now. Well, I'm in the middle of practice. Like, whatever. They almost think that they're more important sometimes because they're helping. Okay. So the best way to work with that person is to turn them into an asset rather than an annoyance. Sally's really nice, but she's driving me crazy. Okay, well, let's figure out how we can work with Sally. Let's communicate away from the pool. Sally, I want to hear your ideas. I'm really excited. I have to practice. Can we get on a call tomorrow at 6:30? We don't have practice. We can call you after your work. Oh, okay, great. Discuss what you need and how they can assist you. They're going to have a lot of ideas. You're still in charge, though. Oh, that's great. I heard you, Sally. That's awesome. This is what we need right now. We're getting ready to go to Midland. I'd like to have 2 team dinners while we're there. If you can find a place that can have 20 of us, plus parents, we're looking at a group of 40 or something, for these 2 nights at this time, that would be awesome. Go team. Sally's like, I got you. It's not a problem. Thanks for giving me something to do. Okay? Clear direction. And then show your gratitude. Sally likes to be told that she did a good job. I really appreciate you, Sally. Not just a, hey, thanks. Send her a nice email. Maybe it's a gift card. Whatever. Really show your gratitude for the work she did, and then she's going to go, oh, okay, he appreciates me. I'm going to listen to him a little more. Okay, and you start to find that balance. The neighbor. I call this like the chill dad. The guy who's just there all the time, right? This is sort of how they are all the time. This is the guy that wears flip-flops in December in New York. Okay? He just always chill. He wants to just belong and go with the flow. He's not going to rock the boat. He's really authentic. What you see is what you get. But he doesn't want to be singled out. So this is the guy that does everything you ask in your program, or a woman. Right? They're always there. They always pay on time. They do what you need because they don't want to be singled out. They feel like they're getting in trouble in that case. So they want to just be able to fly under the radar. Everything's taken care of. There's nothing to come to me about. So a couple things is you're going to have to probably go to them. Hey, Jimmy's really struggling with this, or he's really doing great. They're not going to be the one that comes up like Sally and bugs you all the time. You're going to have to go to them and have some conversations about their kid if you need to. So you've got to be proactive. Ask them for assistance. They don't want to be the outsider, but they're kind of hands off. They're just there. So if you come up, hey, I really need some help with the XYZ. Do you think that's something you could do? It's behind the scenes. You don't have to be out there, dealing with everybody. I just could really, use a little bit of help in this. Okay, they're going to be pretty receptive to that if you can approach them in that manner. They're also typically a champion of equality. They're relaxed, but they want everybody to have kind of the same opportunity. That's the person who you might be like, you've got a kid who can't pay their team fees for travel. Do you know anybody that can help with that? Or, you know what, we'll throw $100 into that. Just don't tell anybody. Or they might come to you and say that. Hey, do you guys need anything with this? I know that family doesn't have a lot of money, or they don't have XYZs, or some way I can help them. Just come under the radar. Okay. The ruler. This is your helicopter parent. This is the one we all hate, right? This is the one that drives us crazy the most. They have to be heard all the time. They're in charge. They are in control in nearly every situation in their lives, and they feel like they need to be in control here too. Because of that, they want and expect the best. They are the example of, I want it done right, so I'll do it myself. But I can't coach the divers myself. So what do? So they feel this sort of struggle there on how they're going to have that control. But we don't have to be like, I just want them out of my program. Okay? They can actually be an asset if you communicate correctly. So one is that they're going to be drawn to others that exert authority. So if you can come in and not be wishy-washy with them and say to the tiger mom, hey, look, this is what's going on. We're building this. We got this program. Everything's on lock. Here's how we're doing it. And they go, oh, okay, it's under control. I don't have to ask all those questions. They showed me it up front. Okay? And this is the one that we always talk about. Like, if you can win their endorsement, that's huge. Because when the typically most frustrated, most angry, loudest, most vocal, most annoying parent goes out and goes, I love it here. Everybody goes, wow, you please the most hard to please person we know at school. Like, this program's got to be great. If you can make them happy, we're going to be gold. We're coming. And the last one is the patriarch. And this is sort of a hybrid of the last two, the ruler and the caregiver. They really, really protect everybody, but they're also kind of in charge a lot of the time. Sometimes this is a single parent. Sometimes it just kind of depends on their life experience. Maybe they had a big family and they were the oldest child, and so they took care of 5 or 6 brothers or sisters. Okay? They're going to put everybody before themselves, and sometimes they're unwilling to compromise because of this, which means they're going to kind of do because they feel like they have to. They're also going to tend to be a little bit outspoken, a little loud. So when you're working with them, you still want to show that authority like you would with the ruler, and that you have that control of the situation. Share those things up front and reassure them like, hey, your kid's being careful. We got this. This isn't just like they come here, every Thursday we take 5 minutes and we just let the kids talk about their week at school or whatever, get it off their chest, whatever it is. And they go, oh, okay, I feel better about this now. But you also have to be careful because they're going to be the person that overextends themselves. And And they go, yeah, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And you don't realize that they also said that to their other 3 kids, coaches, for their other activities. And then it doesn't get done, right? Where you have the one that doesn't want to let you down, they don't want to let you down in a way that they overcommit themselves. So being able to kind of identify that parent in the group and go, just kind of lean, have them be moral support and not going to throw a lot of tasks at them or ask for a lot of help because they're likely to actually drop the ball because they're trying to do tasks for everybody. And my last little thing here is just do everything with purpose. When you go out to do these things, you've got to be really intentional with this. So, I mean, without being so harsh, you can't half-ass it. Right? You can't just go, I posted last month on social media. You've got to have some intention and you've got to do it all with purpose. The same way as a coach, you would tell your kid, if we're doing these lineup drills, you can't just, right, that's not going to make you any better. You got to walk and do everything right or you're not going to get anything from it. It's going to be the same thing with all of these things. So maybe you can take this home and you can go, you know what, we go through my whole parent list and I'm going to see if I can put everybody into these 4 categories just from what I know of them. And then go, okay, these are the people I'm going to ask for stuff. These are the people I'm not going to ask. These are the people I'm going to set up separate communications with. And you do a little bit of that on the front end really purposefully, you're going to set yourself up on the back end to have it a little bit easier as you go through stuff. So, does anybody have any questions about any of that stuff? I know it's kind of a lot to throw at you, but and everybody's situation is obviously different. And the QR code should be on the tables too. If you can't do it to scan off there with the lights or whatever. But we're here to help you. I want to see you have successful programs, have them grow. So if you want to have conversations later, we can certainly do that. But hopefully you got enough information and a couple things here that you can go back and do a little homework and get started on and take a month or 2 and see like, okay, is this playing out? Does this make sense?